All right, it is 6:01 and today is March 19th, 2024. It is the regular meeting of the town council division and we're getting started. So I guess we will have the pledge of allegiance first. So you stood up here, I think that I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. For which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay, anyone have a conflict of interest with any of the items on the agenda? No. Paul?
No.
Me, Jean, no. Misty? No. Martha? No. Okay. So the next item is the consent agenda, and I did add one thing to the agenda, as you guys have probably noticed. I told you at our work meeting last week on Thursday that I would not add anything to the agenda. And then, I saw my note and Crystal reminded me that I had told JB I would do a resolution to reappoint him as our, representative to the mosquito abatement district. And so I put that on for the, consent agenda. So that's the only thing I added from our meeting last week was this. So, Paul, since you already told me you wanted to make a, amendment on the consent agenda, I'll let you make the motion.
Yeah, and I understand Marcy also wants to have something removed from the agenda, the checks and invoices.
Yeah, I can talk till next month.
Can you tell me why? I imagine,
I need to follow up with either the accountant or the treasurer, for some supporting documentation that I wasn't able to get before tonight.
and does it have to do with a particular check or invoice on here?
No, but it was with the financial packet.
But we're only approving checks and invoices.
Okay, I have a second derivation. It does have to do with
Yeah, sure.
invoices, so if you want me to say what that is, then you guys itself individually, we can come back. So go ahead.
So I move that minutes from February 20th and approval of the checks and invoices for February 2024 be removed from the consent agenda and tabled until next month's regular meeting.
Just the February 20th?
Yeah, that's the February 20th.
I'll second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so you've made your motion, so now another motion to approve your new consent agenda.
I approve the consent agenda for the approval of minutes of February 15th, resolution of 2024.
Okay, well, I'll second since no one else will. All in favor? Aye. Before we move on to open forum, I just remembered that there was something I wanted to say before we actually got going with the meeting. And, last week when we had our, it was really good. I liked the way it all flowed and it was good. And I was thinking that since one of the things we're planning to do, is to work on the rules of procedure for, town council meetings and planning commission meetings, that I wanted you guys to pay attention tonight, because during the meeting, how it feels so different from the work meeting, because we've got all these rules and regulations that we have to follow in that meeting. I really like the way our work meetings And I really like things to be as informal as we can make them. So just notice how different it is. The whole feeling is just gonna be so different from the meeting on Thursday. So think about that as we go through this meeting, and then when we think about how we want our meetings to go, how we want our rules of procedure to be. Because I hate these very rigid, structured meetings. I don't like them at all, and all the certain ways to make the certain motions, and it just constricts how we really want to talk about things. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we're on to open forum, so is
So
there
we
any?
have to approve the minutes from the.
Yeah,
We
we're
are-
gonna put the consent.
We have, okay, open forum. Anyone in the audience that has something they would like to say that is about something that is not on the agenda tonight? No.
I did get a, it's from Lori, but I'll do it at council comments.
Okay.
Because I think that's, she couldn't make it to all her forum, but I think it's more appropriate just to do it.
And council comments, okay. We do have this, oh no, this is on the, this is about an agenda item. Okay, so what I have, Jay Lee, you have walked in just in time, because you're next on the agenda. I was just about to announce you that you were not here. So the next thing I have on the agenda is to do some updates, and this will be a new thing on the agenda. Jay Lee had asked if he could give an update from the mosquito abatement, but what I plan to do from now on is have, Bronwyn appear at our meetings and give us an update on what planning commission is working on, and to have Jean Garati, the zoning administrator, give us an update on what building projects are going on in town. But first off, Jay. We just finished approved the resolution reappointing you to mosquito abatement, we did that. And, but I have you on here to give us an update on the mosquito abatement. Do you have anything to give us an update on that? Do you have one for yourself? Or do you have one? Yeah, okay.
Okay, actually, we don't hold our meetings every month, we only hold 4 in the year.
Okay,
So we didn't have a meeting last month, but this is the page that I was giving you last time. Okay, so anyway, it's just the state of the district. The purpose to answer 3 questions: where are we now, what has been improved, and where are we going? Categories and topics of discussion: Southwest Mosquito Abatement Control District Board building. Capital improvements: added water light filter system to the ice machine. Will install sunshade for the wash pad and landscaping improvements. Vehicle switching to smaller trucks for more efficiency. Topper and slider installed in 2022 Colorado. Those sliders are amazing. They cover the whole truck and you just pull everything out, get out what you need, plug it back in. They're really something. Anyway, slider installed in the 2021 Silverado. Treatment system, first is more batteries, chainsaws and trimmers for source access. They're having to cut through a lot of brush and everything to get to spots where the water standing, where the mosquitoes are at, to get rid of them. So design new battery operated fogger, blower fogger, 1.76 gallon total vanilla side used for fogging over 100.4 acres in 2023. Surveillance. Sunrise GIS updates include zone designation and adding a new Egypti layer. Made 10 more additional traps for the rotation. Ferry traps can be set for trapping night. Aedes aegypti found in St. George, Middleton, and Santa Clara in 2023. Lab 15 positive West Nile virus pools, 1 human case travel related, and 3 SLE positive pools found. We will be testing more bioproducts. Nutrisolve had a full-time lab technician to the team. In the office, we updated salary, wage ranges, and job descriptions for positions. Preparing for 2023 agreement upon procedure audit. Karen is studying to get her SHRNCP HR certifications, whatever that means. Miscellaneous issues, annual UMAA conference at Hilton Garden, St. George. AMCA conference in Sheridan, Dallas Hotel, Dallas, in March 4th to the 8th. Sean just got back from that last week, supporting Chivas Band and creating a new mosquito program. So that's the state of the.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Okay.
On number 3, treatment system. Number 3,
Oh,
treatment system.
okay.
Letter C. I was looking at this before you got to it. It says adulticide. And obviously, can that mean somebody killed an adult? But what does that actually mean? What is adulticide?
That's adult side is for the adult mosquitoes.
Okay.
It's different than they use. Yeah, and they fog and stuff, but anyway, the larvae, they treat differently,
Okay,
so.
okay,
Adult side is for the adult mosquitoes.
okay.
And for everyone's information, male mosquitoes do not bite, it's only the females that bite you.
Oh,
So,
there's that.
Jay, I have a question. Over here, I have a question.
okay.
So are your minutes of your meetings available online? You publish them?
Yeah.
So we just go to Southwest Mosquito Abatement and Control District, Google that, and then we can find out where your website is.
Yeah, I think that's correct, yeah.
And then the other thing is, do you have any kind of community outreach, like to let residents know how to maybe control their property so that the mosquitoes won't do any breeding or, like probably, stagnant pools or I don't know what other kind of things. Do you have sort of a newsletter or anything like that, or is that part of your program?
I wish Sean was here, but, he's out counting mosquitoes.
Okay.
It's that time of year, but I'm not sure if I have to even give you a call or get on there and ask them, but that,
Okay, I'll just look on the website.
I know they have these pellets you can put in the horse troughs and different things where, if they're not drinking it dry, and the mosquito can get in there and stuff, but, and they probably got the same thing you can put in pools on your own property, and mosquito, you get them commercially, but mosquito abatement has a lot less. So, anyway,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
So, Bronwyn's not here to do planning and zoning update, so Jean, why don't you come and do the zoning administrator?
Move this back. I just wrote some notes on that.
Okay, thanks.
Make sure, can't write it, make sure my writing wasn't so bad. Okay, so, you can follow along if you like, and if you got any questions, you can. We have the Flying Monkey project has been renamed to Unplugged. And this is on Mesa Road, just south of Monty Lutz's house. That is a lodging project. And there's a process.
Is that short-term rentals for that?
That's correct. The next one, there's the Labrie project, which everyone's pretty well aware of, but it's there if you have any questions on that one. That one's in process. The building permits have been issued and is under construction. Next one, there's Quail Mesa, which is the subdivision up where Linda Colette's property was on top of I'm sorry, it's the other one. Am I right?
No, that's,
That is-
that's fine.
I get that one and the one down below messed up every time. So that's the one up on top. They're working on their road currently to make that fit standards and whatnot, and they're trying to work on the final plat. They've been given a list of due outs by the engineer and by others, Hurricane Valley Fire Department, regarding hydrants, placement, and water flows and all that they're working. So that's in process in their attempt to work things out before the final plat.
Okay, before you go on,
Yes.
just for Kim, because Kim, you prepared this for him. Okay, for Quail Mesa, where you say 22 lot subdivision, I would say, intended as short-term rentals or something like that, so that anyone looking at this knows it's intended to be short-term rentals. Okay, I'm just adding that in that folder.
And I put lodging on all these because some of them are cabins, some of them are bungalows, some of them are domes. It's all lodging. And
But they're all intended to be, what they're calling.
if I have lodging in here, it's short-term. rentals.
Okay.
The subdivisions are not always, but this one does have that right, or potentially has that right to go either way if it has the overlay.
Okay,
The next one is Red Coyote. This is Jeff Lee's property here on SO 9 that was just demolished and they're working on. That also is lodging units. The Virgin Goods, Virgin Acres, which is the old post office, the old store here at the top of Mill Street, is multi-use. We're working through his plans with him to make sure that we meet codes and whatnot. He's attended a DRC meeting. He'll be the first lodging unit project that will fall under the new ordinance that is pending regarding STRs being eliminated, everything being called pretty much a dispersed motel or a regular hotel, so it would be a conditional use. So we started putting together the stuff for that, but yes.
Can you explain why it says Virgin Acres? That's a subdivision.
I have no idea. I didn't actually prepare the
Okay.
projects. Is that what he's calling it? Or?
It was Virgin Goods was the building, but Virgin Acres.
Virgin Acres is a
No, it came
subdivision.
in on their plans.
Huh,
It came in on their plans.
interesting. Okay, they blended Virgin Acres, but that's fine.
I just call it the old post office, but whatever. So yeah.
we'll make a note to check on that,
Yeah, we
because
want
I,
to take a look.
I agree with her, the subdivision that's down the street where they live is called Virgin Acres. Okay.
Probably their address as well.
That's exactly why, because he lives down there. So on that one, the CUP application, we're preparing that, once we finish getting his details worked out. There were some questions that were passed by the town attorney today, which were given back to them to be able to figure out their setbacks and buffer zones and all that.
Are you
So-
still talking about Virgin Goods?
Yes, correct.
All right,
So they're still working on presenting us with some plans, and once we have that, we'll get their CUP started. Next one up is the Zion Park KOA, which is Stuart Ferber's property just to the east of the current motel. That's a 175 unit RV park, and that permit was issued sometime back and it's under construction. I checked this afternoon with Mark Strictly, who's their builder, see if there were any concerns or issues. They're working along just fine with the building inspector. And last, of course, is the Zion White Bison Resort, which everybody's familiar with, and that's in various stages. Some of the stuff is still waiting for permits, some have been issued and some has been completed.
okay, before you go on, because I had a question, I made a note to ask you after we were done with all this. I just got a text message from someone who is watching online, and they said that Virgin Acres is the name of, Jim Soria's LLC.
Oh,
And that,
interesting.
yeah, and they say that they write a check to Virgin Good Acres LLC. So that's his.
I guess that makes sense. then.
So that's why it's got Virgin Acres on there, so that's okay. So, I had said that if you're done,
Yeah, oh, I can hit that other project.
Okay,
Or it is
go
a
ahead.
project, but
go ahead.
so the Long property, which is just east of the current
Falcon one.
Balcony One restaurant is been put on the market, and we've had a lot of calls from interested parties. Some have told us what they're wanting to do, others just asking about the property, and a lot of realtors trying to clarify. In all cases, do you want to know the types? Lodging was the very first.
I was gonna say, I assumed they were all asking.
Yeah, it's generally lodging. Somebody asked about doing, trying to remember what it was. It was some sort of a store like strip mall type thing, which I encouraged. However, all of them, I'm trying to make sure they understand this is not an easy project. DOT's made it very clear that that dip is gonna have to be brought up, and whoever first builds down there is gonna bear the brunt of that cost. So unless they can get easements through other properties, they don't have a turnout, now that it's been made commercial.
Their driveway's illegal,
Yes.
yes.
So
And they were told, if this changes from residential to commercial, unless you keep that same permit and you live there, like if they rented out a room, that they would have to abandon that driveway. So whoever purchases it will have to, they have to abandon that trail.
we're maybe looking at some type of 5-year agreement for the road.
Possibly.
I mean, that's one
Yeah.
option.
I don't know, when I've mentioned it to those that were asking, the biggest concern, they don't want to bear the brunt of that up front and hope that 20 years they'll get their money back, so. It's highly doubtful that we're gonna get that dip raised up. It's more likely that one of the other property owners around there will grant some sort of an easement from another arterial street. So either George or somebody by them will allow them to come through their property.
Okay, so I did have someone who looked up the easement that goes through, cannot think of the name of the property owner who is behind Long. Can't think of his name, but they indicated that there is indeed a recorded easement, because remember the Longs had a real problem with being able to use that easement. And therefore just started coming off the highway because of problems using that easement, but the easement is
It's
recorded.
exist.
And they're showing that if you look on GPS, that you can see where the easement is, and that garage that's built on that property, but it's right up next to the easement, but actually does not go onto the easement. And so that it's actually there. That one that we would go, turn on 775 by George's Restaurant, go down and then come back and around like in a big U. Yeah, so.
Yeah, so that stuff will all come to play if and when somebody actually purchases the property. I don't do the due diligence for them, I just tell them, I give them just some basic information that before you purchase, do your due diligence and know that the DOT has ruled on that turnout already, so.
I have a question. Can you
Sure.
explain the Zion White Bison RV Park temporary CO?
Yeah, so because they had an agreement with the state and with the sewer district regarding the tanks that were gonna go in. Midstream in the process, the state changed its regulations and asked them to come up to speed. Because they're not up to speed yet, there was an agreement made between them and the state and the sewer district that they could dry camp, but they could not dump. So all of the dump facility things are blocked off and screwed in to where nobody can access that. It's complete dry camp.
So how long is it temporary?
I think we did it for 6 months.
Okay.
I'd have to look. It's written in the agreement.
Okay.
I
Apologize, I don't have that.
I haven't heard that either.
I know we ruled on it. We put a time limit on it for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. It might have been 6 months because we were thinking that they were going to be getting this issue resolved, that
Yeah,
seems.
it's the state that holds most of that up. It's just a slow moving machine, as you know, so.
Okay,
So I have
Any
another
other
question.
questions?
Yes, I do. So it says on White Bison that gas station building permit issued, is that
That's correct. That's been there for a while. They haven't done anything with it yet, but it's in play.
I'm gonna make one suggestion
Sure. Is this
for
for Kim or for me?
this is for both of you.
Okay.
On the section that says, column D, where it says developer / applicant, I think we should add who the builder is. Instead of like for Red Coyote where it says Jeff Lee, I think we should have / Fahrenkamp.
Right.
Show us who's doing the work. That would be,
I think part of that will depend on what we get on the application. Sometimes the builder's not even listed on the application.
well, somebody called me the other day from another town and said, what's Fahrenkamp doing there? And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then today when I left town, I went, oh, I see, they're doing Jeff Lee's project, so.
Right.
I
Yeah,
have
Jim,
no-
sorry, I don't know who his builders are, for example, but if we know them, we can certainly add them.
Okay.
No problem. Anything else I can
That's
answer?
That's all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Bronwyn has come in, so Bronwyn, you gave us a little chart last week for what's going on with planning commission. Give us- No, Heath,
Yes.
do we need him for the closed meeting? Gene. If we don't need him for anything else, he can leave, or we can text you and you can come back if we need. Okay, just be available by text if we need you to come back, okay?
So Paul has the only updated version, one that's got a written explanation. Anyway, my last comment.
Because what?
Because I always edit afterwards, you know that. Anyway, I will send you a new copy too. It says the same thing, it just said it prettier.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make, you aware of, kind of a package of four ordinances that are headed through to you guys, hopefully, we'll put them up for public hearing this next month. And you'll get a look at them. These ordinances are, dealing with chapter 60 and all its tentacles. So it addresses, transient lodging throughout the town and all of its different types. It kind of starts at the foundation and goes with, and it gets our definitions clear and gives us the building blocks to really have a little bit more, solid code when it comes to all of the transient lodging. It addresses all types, you know, hotels, motels, dispersed motels, short-term rentals, residential hosting, all of it, the whole ball of wax, so it's kind of hefty. I'm gonna do the best I can to make it clear and easy to forge through, I don't know. But our thought, and just so you know the premises, we just started work, or started scheduling to do some work on our general plan, so these ordinances are really in anticipation of, they're not anticipated to be like ordinances that will stick around forever. They're anticipated to address our needs right now and give us the year that we need to, get a general plan and a comprehensive, you know. Well, all of our ordinances are pretty weak and we're hoping along to
Get.
oh,
get to the
I'm
point.
sorry, I didn't know what you wanted. Anyway,
I wanted you just to tell me what you guys are working on.
We're,
That's all I
okay,
wanna know.
quick, sorry, you gotta direct me, because I
Okay.
got a lot in there. Okay, we're doing, these four ordinances that have to do with short-term, rentals and transient lodging and getting that clear. We are working on a sign ordinance for billboards and another sign ordinance. We also have in the works some lighting and dark sky, some dark sky work, so. Is that enough?
Yes, and don't forget,
And don't forget, we are working on.
no, I meant the two things that I
Yeah,
really want
yeah.
on your agenda.
The traffic, approval of the traffic plan, we've been working on that, that should come right through you, sorry, we're done with that, so that's out of my brain. And also, we are working, in our work meeting tomorrow on the emergency order, a permanent solution for the emergency ordinance that's been put through, so. And we're pretty much covered. There's,
Thank you.
goodbye.
Thank
Oh.
you, Bill.
Did you guys have any questions for her? I told her, I let her sit, but do you guys have any questions?
I'm not.
You can call me.
No questions, but the big issue is gonna be the general plan.
Yes, that's right, we're excited about that.
Okay, so moving on to council comments. April, do you have any comments? Now, do you have any comments that you would like to, let the public know about?
I don't, right now.
Paul?
Yes, I do, couple. Like I mentioned, prior to the start of the open forum, I did get a text from Lori Rose asking to read this or raise it either at the open forum or council comments, but our council comments would be appropriate. She cannot attend tonight. She wants to know what the arrangements are for the tubers for this summer, so they're not operating in our neighborhood and are instead in the commercial zone as promised last year. That's what her open forum statement was going to be. So, and my point as a town council member, if the tubers are not going to be anyplace else, then we should have that as an agenda item to discuss very quickly, because I know that affects the neighborhoods. And I disagreed with the result last year, but we need to get that under control before they start, if that's where they're going. And I have no idea where we're at.
Is that the only thing on her?
That's the only thing on hers. So now I'll get to my council comments. And, that's because I was down there, most people know I went down to watch, some baseball down in Mesa, but on the way through, I drove through Flagstaff. So I got two items related to Flagstaff. The first is I was driving into town I saw a sign that said jake brake ordinance enforced. So I think you mentioned that we already have it on our municipal code.
I put it,
Okay, great. So now the next thing is to get the sign done.
we already got the signs.
Good. What's that?
We already got signs.
We just need to put them up.
We put up one, the other one hasn't gone up yet. I have a call in to you guys.
Okay. Good. And I thought it was
I think we
interesting.
need 2 more signs.
I think so, I'm not everybody I've been getting calls from. So that was interesting coming through and I saw that going through Flagstaff. I did see it through Utah and different places I traveled to, but that one was just more recent. The other one is I did on one of my trips back, stayed in Flagstaff, had a motel, and I walked in and Marriott had blasting on the TV going when I walked in, and it was all about dark skies. Advertising dark skies for Flagstaff. And so my thought was, if Flagstaff, the size of that city, along with a college town can do it, we sure can do it here in Virgin. So there you go. I'm glad you're here, Jack. That's all for your comments.
Okay. My council comments. So this will not make some people happy. But I was advised today that our Representative Celeste Malloy did indeed get the money for paving Sheep Ridge Road. Is $3.9 million, and the money will be released by the federal government next year. In 2025, they will start the project. This year, they've got some funding to acquire right-of-ways and do surveying all the way from Highway 59 to 9. And that came from Dixie NPO, where we gave them some money to start that, but they have been awarded $3.9 million from some federal transportation funds for paving Sheep Ridge Road.
And that's how surprising I knew that was gonna happen. So-
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was too.
One of the other things on my way back, coming back, you could see back through Colorado City on down. And of course, Google now takes you right down Sheep Ridge Road to my house.
And it's a highway.
And the traffic,
Yeah.
and I noticed going down that way, the traffic's really crazy.
It'll make it safer, it'll make it a lot.
I just wanted the people in Desert Gardens to know that the money has been awarded by the federal government.
So do you suppose that they'll have any public input?
I can ask them, because I go to this meeting once a month, I can ask about
I
that.
think just because there's not very many people that live along Sheep Ridge that should be considered.
Because I've been told that the first part they were gonna do was from Highway 9 to the bridge. And that may still be the first part that they do. But, in any event, they said the money will actually be released in 2025 and then they will start working.
It would be great if they would consider some, pedestrian trails and things like that.
Okay,
I don't even know what
I'll
they're.
bring that up with them.
And of course, bring up that they need to put in that roundabout.
I didn't say that today, but I was thinking, UDOT was there, but I was thinking of telling them that maybe they're gonna do the roundabout at Sheep Ridge Road before the one at Co-op Terrace Road. So they were gonna do one at Co-op Terrace Road first, but if the paving of Sheep Ridge Road is gonna happen next year, they really should probably do the roundabout at Sheep Ridge Road.
And I think it would be appropriate for us to draft a resolution, requesting that they move that up on their schedule,
On
coming
UDOT,
from the town,
okay,
and have a public hearing on it and then submit it to them. To say, here's what Virgin.
okay. The next thing is, UDOT has indicated that they have a pavement preservation project that they are going to be doing, where 50 South comes up and hits, Highway 9 right in front of 101, where they've got that really bad pavement, it's all crumbling and everything there, that they are doing a pavement preservation project, and that will be this summer. And, they are going to be coming and approaching the town for some contribution to that paving project, and I've asked, could they give me some idea on how much money they want? Because we are working on the budget right now for next year, and I'd like to put it in the budget and they don't have any number for them. So it may be one of these things we have to come back and amend the budget later during the year, during the fiscal year.
So that is on a town street?
It's where, you know, how right there at the 10150 South comes up and hits Highway 9?
Yes.
We're talking right there.
Oh, just like that, like the intersection.
Yeah.
That intersection really shouldn't be at an angle
No,
like that.
they-
They typically don't allow that.
Right, they need to redo that,
Just
so
so
I'm saying that.
that's 90-degree thing.
And then the last thing is, the tubers are working with Stu Ferber for a location on his property. They've already had a meeting that I facilitated. They come in and had a meeting in my office, and they are very happy.
Good, so that answers your question. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I told her last year that I had a place in mind, and it was exactly where it's going. Where the plan is exactly what I had in mind last year, so that's what I said. All right, followed up on, basically, that I said I would do last year. All right, so any council comments from this?
Yeah, I'm helping with the Easter, so I want to remind everybody that there's an Easter event this weekend. And it's not just for children, it's for adults too, so we're having adult prizes, adult baskets, and a picnic. We're trying to make it a nice Easter brunch that involves everyone. So this Ashley's and her committee worked really hard on it. And it's March 23rd at 11 a.m. at the town park.
So I was wondering, I was thinking about that today as I was coming back from St. George. Are there gonna be any signs?
Yes,
Okay.
they're actually sitting on my floor at my house to go up, because the last ones flew down.
Oh,
Like, we put them up and then they all flew down. I found them like all over the place. So we put them up, I had them counted into the thing and still the wind just took them out. So I waited till today because it's supposed to be mild to put them up, but they're also, our businesses have been very generous. They have donated quite a bit, and it's not just for kids, there are adult donations, so it behooves all of us to come and enjoy, have a good time, and bring our community together.
I did put it on my calendar.
It'll be a lot of fun.
So do you suggest that attendees bring their own chairs or?
Yeah, it's a picnic style brunch, and there's going to be food provided, we're gonna cater it, but if you wanna bring, something to share, we will have a table for people to share with me.
Like dessert.
A dessert or a side, it's up to you, whatever, and
And how about, should we bring our own plates and things like that?
no,
Or
we'll
will
put
that
the
be-
plates and all that stuff out, but just for sitting down, it's our town park, we're not gonna, there's picnic tables already there,
Right.
but we always end up branching out.
Bring
So,
a blanket.
Bring a blanket, bring
Yeah, okay.
chairs, whatever you want, there's gonna be a bounce house for the kids, and try to get a hold of George, but used to do,
Oh,
tree planting.
I think George moved. I don't think he lived there anymore.
That one, I never did work. So just
Now,
remember,
I-
on March 23rd at 11.
I heard about a year ago that they were moving to Colorado.
Good for you.
Okay, Marcy.
I don't have anything to share, I just want to send out a big thank you to the planning commission. I watched on Zoom your meeting last week, and your civility, your professionalism, and your efforts, I definitely recognize. I can see you guys are working really hard and working as a team, and I want to recognize you for that. Thank you.
Okay,
Can I have an addendum to that?
yeah.
Thank you. I forgot when you mentioned a couple of your things, at the fire board meeting, Joe Decker was appointed the new fire chief. So it took a while to get there, but I think that's a good pick. And he's no longer the interim fire chief. So it's now been approved. The other thing we did is we adopted the appendices to the uniform fire. So they will be effective here. A lot of times the state requires us to adopt uniform fire code. We do, but the board never adopted the appendices. And they've been enforcing them for 9 years, but they never adopted them. So we finally went ahead and adopted the appendices to the uniform fire code. So it's official, even though things won't change.
Okay. All right, so moving on then to our action items where we were going to vote on some ordinances, et cetera, et cetera. many different things we have going on. I had said I was going to do a resolution, this, item number A1 under new business. I had said at the work meeting that I was going to do a resolution for us adopting the Virgin Town wastewater study that was done by Sunrise Engineering. And as I was going back through various records of adoptions, the town adopting various studies, some they did by resolution, some they did by ordinance. I went ahead and typed this up as an ordinance. And if we need to change it to a resolution, that's fine. I can just change the resolution and change the number. But otherwise, I decided to go ahead and do this adoption of the wastewater study as an ordinance. So that's, I just wanted to let you know it's different from what I had said it was going to be when we had our work meeting last week. So from when we discussed this at the work meeting, we all seemed in favor of adopting the wastewater study. I did not feel that anyone had any objection to that. We discussed what all we thought were good things for the wastewater study and why we would want this. So has anybody's opinions changed since our work meeting on Thursday? Nope. Okay, so resolution or ordinance?
Resolution.
Okay.
Sorry, the difference is if there is a plan and it's gonna be an official plan of the city, you adopt that by ordinance. If it is a study, which is going to be guidelines or policy that we should be following, that is resolution.
Okay, so what's our next resolution number, do you know, Crystal?
G.
I was thinking it was gonna be H.
Twenty twenty-four G.
Yes, with an R in front, R 2024-G. All right, so we will change this to be a resolution R 2024-G. And the title I have an ordinance, we'll change that to a resolution. And, I don't think there's anything else that's any different in the language, okay? So, would someone like to make a motion to adopt this resolution R 2024-G?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-G, an ordinance of Virgin Town Council, Virgin Utah, adopting the Virgin Town wastewater study 2022 update performed by Sunrise Engineering. Signed and stamped February 22nd.
All in favor?
Who's?
Oh, she did, I think that,
I'm sorry.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, next item on the agenda is an extension of the, I had put on the, I still have it wrong on the, yes, yeah, still have it wrong on the agenda. Even though I made a note to fix that, it's the extension of the preliminary plat, it's not extension of the final plat, it's extending enough time for them to come in and get the final plat.
I did this twice, neither you or I caught that.
Even though it's in my notes from the
Yeah,
work.
me too.
What'd you say?
They're down to try.
Okay, so, we all agreed at the work meeting that none of us had any, I don't think any of us had any objection to extending the, preliminary plat for Quail Mesa. Any change in opinion since our meeting? No, okay. Would someone like a motion to make a motion to, extend the preliminary plat for, I believe we were gonna go for a year?
Oh, yeah, we should have the date to it.
We did, that's what
I
I
thought it
did.
said 6 months.
No, we didn't say 6 months. We didn't agree on the time, but when we
Robert,
did,
what was your request for?
I think it was whatever, Justin had, but clearly you heard from Gene, you've been doing a bunch of work on it. But my fear is stuff we can't control, like what Ash Creek says, or getting comments from the town for a few months at a time as they come.
So last month, we approved the extension of the preliminary plat for Zion's Landing and gave them a year, and that was just last month.
That's fine.
So that's why I was proposing a year,
So,
so.
and I think we did a date last time.
It would be a
Yeah.
year from, it would be a year from now, yeah. So if anybody would like to make a proposal, make a motion, I'd appreciate it.
Motion to extend the preliminary plat for Clonisa until March 9th, excuse me, 19th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Robert, you got your extension.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next item up on the agenda. This one, ordinance 2024-06, that is the number that's going to be, is 06. This is what we're calling the billboard ordinance. And at the meeting the other day, on Thursday, option A is exactly the ordinance as it came from planning commission, no changes whatsoever. Option B is the proposal that I had at the work meeting, that we take everywhere where it says billboard and change that to say off premises signs, open parentheses, includes billboards. And so option B, I went through and you can see that every place, and in bold, I put where I made the change from off premises signs includes billboards. Instead of it just saying billboard, off premises signs, because as I said, when I went back and looked at my notes that the county attorney had given me, when she had written to me, passed me a note saying you guys need to do a billboard ordinance, she actually said you guys need an off premises signs ordinance. Then the second, option C, was a compromise with Bronwyn, because she really wanted to keep everything the way they had it with the billboard. And so I added the definition for off premises signs. I left her billboard definition, added a definition for off premises signs. And then everywhere where, she had the word billboard, I added off premises signs. So for example, section 2C says prohibited, she has billboards are prohibited along all roadways, and I put and off premises signs. Billboards and off premises signs. So we've got three options here. The one exactly as it came from planning commission, one changing it, say off premises signs, and one just adding off premises signs. So we can cover all bases.
So I have a question on that, since there's multiple versions, only one of them went to public hearing.
Yes, but the town council can make a change.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, it went to public hearing. This one is the one that went to public hearing. But we can make a change that should not need to go back, or if it needs to go back to public hearing, it needs to go back to public hearing. But I think adding off premises signs that includes billboards is not enough to make it need to go back to public hearing.
Or we could approve option A and send B and C back to planning commission for
Right.
recommendation.
So I wanted to, no, I want to hear what he has to say.
Paul, what was your suggestion?
Option A is what the planning commission sent to us. Approve that today and send B and C back to planning commission for a public hearing and recommendation.
And
And we
the,
can always come back and read just and then what we did.
so what, the reason why we did this is the definition of billboard that's in here, that came from the planning commission, does include, the fact that the billboard is not located on the same premises of what's being advertised in the billboard, which means it's an off-premises sign. But I want all off-premises signs. I think all off-premises signs should be prohibited, because we've got different things that are advertising are all along the highway here. We've got a sign right at the corner of the road that's advertising for a parking lot in Springdale. And then we've got the e-bike business from Tokerville that's got signs, and the smoothie business that's got signs, yet none of those would we call a billboard.
So the other thing I noticed on B and C is the title does not reflect, it's the same title as in option A, and so I was wondering if maybe the way that Paul suggested, maybe we just go ahead and approve A because it's correct as far as the title. Does that matter?
We can change the title just like we can change the ad off-premises signs, but that's not a problem.
Might not have seen that in the public.
I think the issue becomes whether or not it's a substantial change.
Yes.
That issue, if you want to discuss in the council, you guys feel like it's not a substantial change, then you can adopt what we've done version. If not, if it is a substantial change, then the problem is to go back to planning commission. So really the only one before us in that situation would be A.
Yeah, I will make, please get it on the table motion wise. I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-06, ordinance of the town of Virgin, amending the Virgin Hulu considering billboards, option A, and option B and C sent back to the planning board for public hearing with an adjusted title and then a recommendation back to us as to whether we need to make further amendments.
I make one more suggestion.
Yes, please.
That, when the planning commission is going back and looking at that, when the state legislature passed the Utah outdoor advertising act.
That's why we're doing this.
Yes, yeah, I just want to make sure that I haven't done a close read between the act and our ordinance, either option A or C. Just to make sure that there's nothing,
I suspect that there is something that would need to be changed. I printed off all the state codes I could find that do billboards today to go back and look at all of them to see what different things would maybe need to be addressed in a separate ordinance.
I will add to my motion and look at the new legislation, making the recommended changes.
The outdoor advertising.
Outdoor advertising.
because there's the federal highway act, but we, the highway out here is a state road, where's this outdoor advertising act?
And if you've already done that, then you don't have to worry about it. Well, we got to the second.
We've got a motion on the floor, and I don't know that if the motion on the floor is to approve your ordinance as written, so.
I'll second that.
Okay. With an intent to send back to planning commission to address off premises signs and the new act that just passed to see if we need to make changes. This one is not spending money. I guess we can vote all together. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. So that's the motion there. Next ordinance is, this will be Paul's proposed ordinance revising about short-term rentals, and this is going to be 2024-07 is what is the ordinance number that will be assigned to this. And I made a change in the title. This copy is not.
Yes.
This copy is not, the copy we have here. I know what happened. I made a change in the title and I didn't put it on SharePoint. But this is adding in, the amendment that Darlene made at planning commission to add a prohibition of short-term rentals in 40.12 subsection D, to add short-term rentals as a prohibition. And I had prepared a copy. I went in on Word and changed the title to include, where it said adding new sections 32.09, 34.07, and 38.07. I had added and 40.12 subsection D. I've added that into the title, and I forgot to upload it to SharePoint. But we can make a motion to do that.
And,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, just in the title.
yeah,
It needs the 40.12.
Yes, and I made a copy with that change and forgot to upload it to SharePoint.
and then also when you changed from the caps to the lower case, you got instead of a period and L.
Yes, I fixed that. I fixed that too, in the one that I forgot.
I do have a question for Keith before, if everybody wants, before I make a motion.
Sure.
Keith, last month, or I think it was last month, or 2 months ago, I think, when this first came up. Let me back up. The effect of this ordinance is great for those that have legal permits, legal non-conforming uses. You had made a suggestion that we just add the language that says SDR overlay approved by the town of short-term rentals that have been issued a SDR permit. Should be in there just to make sure it's clear. I assume you still think we should. So when I was gonna make the amendment, I was gonna suggest that we just add a new section in there before section. I think the way we renumbered it is we have a section, a new section 8 and every number 8 to 9 on down. See if this works for you. SDR overlay approved by and short-term rentals that have been properly issued an STR permit by the town prior to January 1st, 2024, legal non-conforming uses, subject to Hulu Chapter 10. Does that work? Okay.
And where are we going to add that?
The section 8 will become new section 8, and then we'll renumber the sections. I just caught that when I saw John Huber's email or whatever.
Yeah.
Suggesting that we do that, and I know Keith mentioned that last month, and it kind of got lost in the process. So I will go ahead and make a
Well,
motion.
can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I was wondering about the definition of short-term rental. I think maybe the language would be better if we said, any dwelling or other structure or portion thereof that is leased or rented for lodging purposes for a period of 30 days or less unless a valid RHF permit has been properly issued by the town for the dwelling or structures. Currently, it starts out saying the leasing or renting of any dwelling, and I think the emphasis should be the definition on any dwelling. It's just a suggestion. I don't know if it.
So let's make that clear. You would delete the leasing or renting of, and it would start off any dwelling or other structure, a portion thereof, for lodging purposes. Or
That is leased or rented.
that is leased or rented.
So she's moving that to the end of the
Yeah,
sentence.
in the middle. Leased or rented for lodging purposes.
Not to make it any more convoluted, but, have you thought about things that are not structures,
That's what I told,
recreational vehicles?
that was my.
Do you want to respond to Joe?
I wrote to Paul yesterday and said that, I really didn't like his definition. That we really need to make it clear that tents, travel trailers, RVs and mobile homes are not
Yeah.
properly short-term rentals. So this really needs to be in there.
I think, if I remember correctly, the definition of recreational vehicle includes a whole long list of those things. But if there's anything other than a recreational vehicle that we have observed, I hate to see people Maybe they're not doing it in their house, but they're doing it in their driveway.
They are indeed. We've got people in town, because what I told Paul is, one of the things coming up is a code of compliance officer. One of the things the first things I want the code compliance officer to do is go shut down all the people that are using RVs as short-term rentals, because that's not allowed under our code. Even our current code is not allowed. And taking this out right when I'm ready to have, we are hoping to get a code compliance officer. I'm like, they're gonna have problems, and even though in chapter 60, where we talk about short-term rentals and RHFs, they talk about what is not an STR or an RHF, and it talks about tent, travel trailers, RVs. That's in that chapter, but but it's not in the definitions, in the definition chapter.
And then in the definitions, so it does. I mean, we could have planning board take a look at it also, but, they talked about any dwelling or structure constructed and then the dwelling says, or place of shelter to live in, so that would cover probably the RV and the camps. And then if we need to, we can.
Well, because the other one has hotels, motels.
Lodging houses, boarding houses, congregate living facilities. No, this in here, you're deleting it, you're suggested,
Is there any problem just leaving that definition?
I think the definition could be left. I don't see a need to change it. My personal opinion, I don't see a need to change it. When the code was written, STRs were intended to be, the only thing that could be a short-term rental was an entire residential dwelling unit, because the only place short-term rentals were allowed was in the short-term rental overlay zone, which was on top of a rural residential zone. And then they added short-term rentals and commercial, and then it went to hell in a handbasket, because nobody's building entire homes in the commercial zone and gonna rent it out. They want the little ones. And so that is just not, they do not meet our definition of a short-term rental, even right now, what's going on in any of these commercial developments. So, I would like the definition to stay unchanged. That's my personal.
That's all right, but what I would suggest is that we do it and keep that definition, but afterwards, remuneration received by the owner, unless a valid RHF permit has been properly issued by the town for the dwelling or structure,
And where did you put that?
right after the.
Oh, remuneration. Okay,
How about just valid RHF permitted properly used by the town?
Town, period. That's it.
so you would say, so let me just make sure I'm understanding. You would say an entire residential dwelling unit used as a short-term rental for any period less than 30 consecutive days, regardless of the type and extent of consideration or remuneration received by the owner, unless a valid RHF permit has been properly issued by the town for the dwelling.
Or just for the town?
For the town, period. But I don't like the language entire residential dwelling unit, because the leasing and renting of any portion would also be covered.
This is why, because the portion was supposed to be an RHF.
Yeah, the distinguishment would have been anything less than all would be an RHF.
That's the way that chapter 60 was written, was the entire residential unit is a STR, a short-term rental. Anything less than that is an RHF. And that was how the code was written when when we first allowed short-term rentals anywhere in town. And that's why it's supposed to be.
Can I make this even messier?
Oh, no, not good.
I have, there's some weird stuff in the original definition. A short-term rental is defined as an entire residential dwelling unit used as a short-term rental. The word short-term rental is in the definition of short-term rental, seems a little odd to me. But anyway, I like April's suggestion, and I also like where it continues on at notwithstanding.
Yeah,
So we can kind of combine those two.
Okay, the problem with adding unless a valid RHF permit has been properly issued by the town. The problem is you're mixing the RHF into the short-term rental, because I'm sure there's a definition for a residential hosting facility elsewhere that talks about the renting of a portion if we look at the code, if you look at the definition,
That's why,
part but not all, so it's a portion.
that's why I said include our exception there.
Oh, okay,
Let me try it this way and say, any dwelling or structure, or portion thereof, for lodging purposes, for a period of less than 30 days or less, regardless of the type and extent of the consideration or remuneration received by the owner, unless a valid RHF permit has been properly issued by the town for dwelling or structure, period, and then notwithstanding the definition of dwelling unit within this section, boarding houses such and such, continues to process. Does that work?
We could take out some of the wording just by putting recreational vehicle based on our recreational vehicle definition. If there's travel trailer in here, we don't need that.
I just don't wanna
And
change
mobile
it,
homes, we don't.
I just don't wanna change the definition. I think the definition was well written and, it served exactly what was going on at the time it was written, which was a short-term rental was to be an entire house. That was the intent. It was never intended for short-term rentals to be these little cabins that we see, they're going in, these little small places. Although people argue that, well, they are residential dwelling units. That somebody could live there, it could be a tiny home, and somebody could actually live there, so that is an argument. But I have no problem with the entire rest of this ordinance, it's just the changing of the definition that is the only problem I have. I have no other problem with this.
My concern is an attempt to make short-term rental function buildings. Making short, trying to do short-term rentals of a structure that's, not the full structure. of the building.
Oh, so if you have, say, a duplex. Not that we have any duplexes in town, but if we had a duplex in town, for example, you're saying they would rent part of it and claim it's a short-term rental.
Yes,
Okay,
so
okay.
that, and I pulled the definition out of state law, I can't remember, I think it was in, it's out of state law, and I can't remember exactly which section it was, and then I modified it with, the ending there, unless valid RHF permit was there.
Okay,
So a compromise could be an entire residential dwelling unit or a portion thereof as a short, used as a short rental.
I'm all,
know that, now that I understand Paul's point, if you had a building that had more than one unit in it, you would be, they could live in one part and rent out the other part.
So dwelling or
Well,
structure.
that's an artist.
So just that an entire residential, or an entire or portion of residential dwelling structure without word. Just the same, just adding to the top. Very first sentence. Because it would still get his portion that he wants, the word, right, Paul, would still get your word portion of the dwelling, but then we get to keep the good parts of the
what I think,
definition.
yeah, keep the entire
Keep
residential
the
dwelling
definition,
unit
change the first sentence.
or other structure or portion thereof.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what she said.
that's what I'm saying, that is a
That-
compromise, we need to keep
That,
up.
I think that was.
Okay.
Does that work?
Are you following that, Heath? And what's your thought?
So,
Take out the word unit, basically. Or structure.
No, we need dwelling unit. Dwelling unit has a definition.
Or structure,
yeah,
or other structure.
Or portion thereof.
There is an absolute, there is a definition of dwelling unit
Right.
in our code. We
Right.
need to use the word dwelling unit.
Then just add in the or other structure or portion thereof. I would say what,
Your sign of
I don't
it.
want to. muddy the water, but, I don't know if anyone's familiar with House Bill 82 that came down in 2021, which allows our legislature and all their beautiful wisdom decided that they thought it would be appropriate to allow, and they created a term called internal
Yes.
accessory dwelling units, ADUs.
But that applies to 30 days or longer.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does. But when you're saying renting part of it, and you're saying for, if you put for a term of less than 30 days,
Yeah.
that takes us outside of the ADU issue.
Yes,
That's what the town wants.
okay, so,
So you could say any dwelling or other structure, or.
no, dwelling
Any
unit,
unit, any dwelling unit. Or other structure or portion thereof that is leased or rented for lodging purposes.
You just leave the rest in
Less
there.
than 30 days, and then add all the other definitions of boarding house, lodging house, just leave that.
Just the, or change that first up to the column.
all right. Do you think you have what has been suggested, Paul?
I
Because whoever makes this motion is gonna have to read what we're changing.
think so, and then make a motion, then we can get a second, and then we can do maybe a substitute motion or whatever we need to do to correct it.
Okay,
Okay?
and you had something else you wanted to add? What
Yes,
was
I
it?
do.
All right,
That's what I talked to Heath about.
okay,
My question is, has this been cited to the record?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
that's just,
it is properly before us.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-07, an ordinance of the
Can
Bridge
we change that ordinance over to actually 2024 national fire?
05.
Oh, five? No, we already approved it.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. We're gonna move that one, right?
There's your ordinance.
You had to be
We're gonna move that one.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-05, ordinance of the town revising the definition of short-term rentals, not the definition, revising short-term rentals. We're doing more than just a definition, with the following amendments. Amendment to the title to include 40.12D and eliminate the L that's what's meant to be a period. To change the definition of short-term rental, so it would read short-term rental or STR. Period. Any dwelling or other structure or portion thereof.
No.
Or any dwelling unit or other structure, portion thereof. That is leased or rented for lodging purposes for a period of 30 days or less, unless a valid RHF permit has been properly issued by the town for the dwelling unit or structure, period, and then keep the rest of the language notwithstanding the definition of dwelling unit within this section, boarding house and lodging houses, congregated living facilities as defined in Dulu chapter 50 may not be an STR. That will, is that, I think that everybody,
Can you get the other design stuff?
and then I will, that's the next
Hold
one.
on, before you get one, just a second, I'll check something.
Change.
This, we talked about congregate living facilities as defined in Boone chapter 50. The 50 is now a blank. Let me see where it's defined.
So 60 days.
No, 60 is the short sleeve.
That's on chapter, did that get deleted?
It got deleted, but I think there's something still in there about congregate living facilities. I'll see where it is. It's only in congregate living facilities are defined in the chapter 2.12 for the definition section. And then it's in the chapter 16 conditional use chapter and a prohibited use in the commercial zone, but there is no chapter 50 anywhere.
Well, delete the parens as defined
Okay.
in Hoover chapter 50 parens. You just delete
Okay.
that. And
Okay,
it's.
all right, I just didn't want that in there when there's no chapter 50 in it.
And then my motion would also include the amendment, that we add a new section 8. And then renumber the previous sections 9 on down, to read STR overlay approved by the town and short-term rentals that have been properly issued, STR permit by the town prior to January 1, 2024 are legal non-conforming uses and are subject to Hulu chapter 10. Just a non-conforming use.
I second that motion.
Thank you, everyone.
Took so long time to get to this point, it seems like. All in favor? Aye.
No. I want to tell you why, because after all that work, I want to tell
That's
you
all
why. I love the ordinance. I just feel that, in my opinion, short-term rental should be a conditional use in commercial, because I feel like that's their place, is that and highway resources.
Yeah, I
That's
can.
the reason for my no.
Yeah, and I mentioned when this was going forward, I thought that short-term rental should be a conditional use, that's why I didn't include it in conditional use period. Our chapter, but I understand why the planning board did it, so.
And I understand why they did it as well, and I
Yeah, so
appreciate that.
I'm gonna accept their change.
Okay, that was my, I just wanted to give my justification.
That- and that makes sense.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
okay, so moving on, so those are all the things we're gonna vote on, the rest, the remaining 3 things are just discussion sections. So, last Thursday, we discussed, the revisions to the regional water supply, the addendum and the changes, the recent changes. And you guys said that you had questions. And you guys were gonna collect them all together and send them to me so that we could send them to the Water Conservancy District for changes, for questions, to answer our questions. So I'm gonna give you guys until this Friday to give me your questions, or we will assume that there are no questions.
And we've got a pretty good list started already.
Okay,
So
because I'm gonna-
I've sent those to, I don't have,
I have the Virgin Diet now.
oh, you do?
Good.
I do.
I was going to
We
ask.
finished all of that, so it should,
Okay, so I
and
sent it, and I haven't, I was just going to
Yes,
send it,
if you'll send
one
it.
for comments, and then we compile that and send it on.
Okay, because I was gonna send that to Heath. Okay, because if you guys give me your questions, I'm sending them on to Heath, so Heath can do that. And then today,
They got this version before the board, they suggested one additional change.
just since they sent us this one with the change?
Yeah.
Again, when did they have another board meeting?
But I got a call or a voicemail
Jody?
from Jody, and she wants to meet, and I'm trying to look at, get both of my calendars, so I can tell you guys, I think it might be sooner, right? No, it's, let me look. Please. I think I need everybody to speak that.
Gene, last week, Leroy mentioned something about, a percentage of a cut that we would get if we don't join, if there's a shortage. That for us, it would be quite a bit higher.
Oh, yes.
And I'm just wondering, what's that all about and what agreement?
No, they talk about if there's a drought and how they will, cut water to various customers. And, he was saying that the way things are right now, that if Virgin is not in here, we would have a bigger cut to our water that we receive. in the event of a drought. If they were to go to the point where they were cutting water to everybody, and that if we were in this agreement, I'm not saying I agree with that.
No.
I think I read the
She
things
was
differently.
I understand like the explanation of what he was talking about, what you're talking about, what I'm wondering is where that indicated, is that in 2019?
2019.
Well,
It's not.
let me take.
I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, but let me take one step further. The revised version that has not been fully adopted yet, that is still in works. The municipal customers, the cities have been advocating, they didn't like the 2019 version that essentially gave the Conservancy District and their board the ability to invoke drought measures. And so they wanted some objective criteria that had to be met before they could invoke drought measures, which mean rationing, reducing everyone's water allocation. And so in the new version, it does have certain provisions that are very clear. There have to be certain instances of so many months in a row where the rainfall is below X, and they work with different hydrologists to come up with these objective markers. What I'm telling you is that in our 1997 agreement, there is the same type of provision that says that the district can invoke and reduce the water that they provide to us in the event of drought. So there is kind of like this objective discretionary right of the district, which has yet never been invoked, as far as I know, ever since we've been party to that 1997 agreement. But much like the other municipal clients who are members of the pooling agreement have some concerns about leaving that right in a subjective way to be invoked by the district. I think that's one of the benefits why we may want to consider joining, because that is, I don't know, that is not going to change.
Well, I will tell you one thing I saw, and this is why I was saying I didn't necessarily agree with what Leroy was saying. When you look at the 2019 revised water supply agreement, okay, under our 1997 agreement, we are a contract
Yeah.
user. When you look at the 2019 regional water supply agreement, it says in the event of a drought, a contract user comes first.
Exactly.
And then come the municipal customers.
That's fine.
But they're taking that out in this new revision that they're working on right now. That's taken out. That is gone, and we would not be
That
in
is
priority.
by the big buyers.
Yeah.
To be able to say, hey, we want our water, please start
Yes.
to ration us.
Right, so we would lose any priority and we'd be at the bottom of the heap. And so so I think that's what he meant, for ultimately, when he was saying we would be cut more
Right,
worse than
because
the
I
other.
read both the 97 and the 19.
And you're like, we're a
And
contract.
I'm like, I see this, there's some sort of formula here, but what's this percentage you were referring to? Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we got this agreement this Thursday morning. We had a work meeting on Thursday. We got this revised agreement Wednesday night. I got the email from Jody with this revision. And I copied it and sent it out, put it up on SharePoint, told everybody this came in last night, and so we were gonna talk about it Thursday night, and we have this new one. So has there been something since Wednesday where they changed things yet again? Because this is definitely the one that came from Jody. Okay, okay, so today, one of the meetings I had today, I was sitting next to Nanette from her. And so she asked me about us joining, Ash Creek, because she sits on the board of Ash Creek and, well, she's not on the board at Water Conservancy District, but she is on the board of Ash Creek. And, so she asked me about us joining Ash Creek, and what about the water supply agreement? And I told her we had this new addendum from the Water Conservancy District. And where you had mentioned when we went to, did our presentation to the board, you made the proposal to them that they, waive the penalties that we have collected over the years. When I went to the advisory board, I made the same request. And the response from the advisory council to me and the advisory and the board to you both were, they seemed okay with it. They didn't say absolutely, but they certainly seemed okay with it. Now, when you look at this one here, look at page 3. Number 9 on page 3, it says, each party represents and warrants that the applicable provisions of section 6.2.2, condition precedent of the RWSA have been or will be fulfilled upon execution by virtue. So when you go look at 6.2.2 in 2019, it says that we will be paying that penalty. And so
I'm satisfied.
we had. So, when I was talking to Nanette today, I said, you know, and she remembered, she said, oh yeah, you made the representation that if they would give us, waive our penalty fee that we have that's somewhere around $200,000, that we would in turn use that money to fix some of the water pipes in town that are leaking, but so that ultimately we're helping with the water. And that's what we would do with the money if they waive the penalty fee. And that's why they were all like, hey, that's a great idea. I'm like, otherwise we're giving you the money and we still have leaking pipes.
Yeah.
And so she suggested that we write back to them and with a suggested change to this and say, here's our suggestion about waiving the penalties. And I want to bring that up to you and see what you think.
I think it's incumbent here, in the sense that it will be, everything by both parties signed, it's considered satisfied. The obligations are satisfied.
I take it to mean we have, by this number 9, I take it to mean we have to pay that penalty. Have been or will be fulfilled upon execution by virtue.
Once both parties sign this, it has been
Fulfilled.
before signing.
So if we sign this and have not paid the penalty to them, your contention is that we don't have to pay that penalty.
Have been or will be fulfilled upon execution of this agreement. Why would it say it will be fulfilled upon execution of this agreement? That last phrase wouldn't have any purpose if it.
I take that to mean that we will make that payment.
Maybe they can put it in plain English.
Yeah. I get it, that's.
I just make them.
That's
I don't want them coming back a year from now and saying, you never paid us this penalty.
why I said, if you want to put it, suggest we put it in there. Okay.
That was one of
My understanding is that the board has voted on this version and approved it.
Yes, they have. That's my understanding too.
So now we're going back and asking for a change that they're going to vote on. And I just don't want them sticking in.
Or their amendment.
Or we approve it with seeking clarification from, or subject to X, Y, Z, approval subject to X, Y, and Z. So, subject to making clear that
I'm sorry, say that again.
we can approve it subject to us not being.
You want an email from Zach and Joe, CC, not saying this is what it means.
Yes, that would be fine with me. Because then we could attach it and we could have it with this and we know in the future, anybody looking at this can say, no, we don't have to pay that. We don't, it's not owed. What do you think? Think it's gonna be a problem?
Well, if you guys have concerns, then let's make sure that your concerns are addressed and let's either get an email or send them back those changes. My concern with going back again after approved is that just opens the window
For
for that to add something
yes,
to it.
I get it. but I sure would like to have that money to fix some leaking pipes in town.
Well, my point is, and I think we should use it on leaking pipes, don't get me wrong, but the way it is right now, if that obligation is satisfied, we haven't made any contractual commitment to them to use 100% of it on leaking pipes. Does that make sense?
Yes,
If there is another emergent need that arises, and we both happen to have an extra $200,000 that we've been reserving to use it, so I don't know in how much detail I want to get into with them about
I just want them to,
committing to it being 100% used. I'm not saying.
I just want them to waive them. I just want them to say, yeah, you don't have to pay this.
Okay.
I don't have to tell, I don't have
We
to.
don't even go into the history
Exactly.
of one another
Exactly,
request.
yes. So you'll give me the questions by Friday, I'll send them on to Heath, Heath can deal with talking to the Water Conservancy District about the questions. And deal with Jody and Zach, and then bring this up.
Share those questions with you so I can.
I will, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
We'll just start having a group chat or a group email.
And we got that.
is that going to be violating the Open Public Meetings Act?
Oh, we sorry.
Group email?
Okay, we won't do that.
I think you're gonna have to, I think you should post it on SharePoint, and then everybody.
Okay.
Okay. That leaves the last two was, code enforcement. We talked about the code enforcement ordinance at the work meeting. And, I had agreed with a change that Marcy had proposed, and now that I've thought about it more, I think it should be in a separate ordinance.
So I worked a little more, because all I did was bring it that night.
Yeah.
So I spent some time on it, and I realized some other issues as well.
So so you understand what I'm saying, which is if we're making some changes that have to do with the zoning administrator, that needs to be in a separate ordinance, and we keep the code compliance officer just,
Completely alone.
yes,
Okay,
okay.
I'm fine.
All right, because I have I agree with the suggestions that you had, but I think they need to be in a different one.
Okay, and I've got some other suggestions, I can just, maybe send it to you.
And they have to do with zoning administrator, they're not code compliance, or do they have to do with this?
I think there's code compliance, zoning administrator, and building inspector, there's 3 parts
Uh-huh,
in all different degrees.
yes,
And so I tried to address all 3 of those things and make sure that that's covered in those additional chapters, but 4.04 is kind of a standalone separate, 2.10 in the definition, so.
okay, so, we're gonna be sending this to planning commission for you guys to look at, add it to your list. And this needs to be fairly soon, because we want to hire the code compliance officer. By the way, one of the things that had been said by, Gene and Leroy in the past, when we were talking about code compliance officer, is that we did not have penalties in our code that, that the code compliance officer could, point to. And we've also had the, Weeks, James Weeks has said, when we, can't prosecute because the penalties are not in our code.
I think that was the prior,
No, it was James Weeks who said that.
I know the prior attorney did also.
Yeah.
Prior to me,
That's
did
been
also
a problem
Yeah.
for a long time. So
There are some penalties, but not.
not what they were
There's
wanting.
only, there's like
They-
one that references one penalty that they've been able to use, and that's it.
So I had proposed an ordinance back in September that would, bring penalties into. I looked at all the ordinances for the towns all around here to see how they have their penalties listed, how they handled their penalties. And I drafted an ordinance that they were so much the same as to what St. George did and Washington did and Springdale did and Tokerville did. So much of them were the same. And so I drafted an ordinance that went along with those. And then we sent a copy of it to Jane Weeks, who says, no, that's not what I want. I'm like, well, what do you want? This is what everybody else is doing. So anyway, now that we have this local administrative advisor program, Roger Carter is working on an ordinance for me. He said he'll have it by next week. So I told him, he asked if he had my permission to call you so you guys could talk, and I said, yes.
Okay.
So,
I think what James Weeks wants is not that there be a penalty like an administrative fine. He wants to know if there's which sections we want to criminalize, we need to identify those sections as being a class B misdemeanor.
so I was
So
wondering
that he can
because.
prosecute those.
Because your Jake break ordinance had it being a misdemeanor pursuant to such and such state code. And so I was wondering, as we've been working on these, is there anything where we should have added something like that, anything we just did today?
So something like that, the Jake break statute, that is in the motor vehicle code, it's state law.
About the misdemeanor?
Yes.
Okay.
But we have ordinances, things that, I mean, I've suggested that we take a look at probably what the top 10 most common issues that we see here. Operating a business without a business license. You know, short-term rentals. Other things that are violations of our ordinances, but not violation of any section of Utah's criminal code. And we need to specifically identify those and say, those are a crime in our town, guilty of a class B misdemeanor. That way Jim can, you know, and we have those sections, and if we have calls and complaints, and we have one of the sheriff's deputies come, and they stop in, and if Crystal's had a complaint last day or two, she'll send them out there and say, this is the section of our code, is what he knows inside. The way it goes.
Okay,
We, you know, that can be done either by a code compliance officer or by a deputy.
Can I make a suggestion real quick?
okay, because I was about to
Just
move on.
from, I know, but just from Jim, he called and made this meeting a zillion times about, we have nothing that states dogs at large or dogs barking or biting.
We got a proposed ordinance from James Weeks a year ago for animals at large. With a proposed ordinance, and we never followed that line.
That's my bad, because I was getting processed.
Yes, you were. However, the reason I brought anything about penalties up was because we need to have some penalties so that the code enforcement officer that we're about to set into our code can actually have something to point to as he goes to enforce the code.
Okay, so my question is, so he goes to enforcement and say, you're guilty of this code violation, it's a $100 fine. Okay, who's tracking the fine? How are we collecting it? Is that code enforcement officer, is that town staff?
Oh, well, won't we address that when we pass the ordinance laying out what all penalties are? I mean, I don't see that we need to do that in here with this ordinance about the code enforcement officer.
No, I don't need to in there, but I do need, because what you're describing is an administrative fine
Yes.
by enforcement.
Yes, so right now, the software that we are using, we have several, this company Civic Plus that we have contract with for our website, they have like 15 or 20 different modules for software for municipalities. And we have signed up with 4 of their modules at this point in time. And the 5th one that I want to sign up for is keeping track of all of this for code enforcement and how many times you go out for a visit to talk to somebody, what the penalty is, it's all gonna be, so that's my plan. Once we get the code enforcement and the penalties are in, then I plan to sign up for that software.
Okay, let me ask one further question, Paul, and probably appreciate this one. What happens if someone wants to challenge a penalty? I'm not guilty of that. Do we have an administrative law judge? Who is that law judge? What powers does he have?
Okay,
I'm just asking, because that's why I've been advocating for a municipality this size, that probably what we need to do is just criminalize our most common violations. Because then when it's a crime and they're cited,
Go
it's
straight to
all
court.
ran through the Washington County Justice Courts, prosecuted, fines and unpaid fines.
otherwise we have to have an administrative law judge, okay.
You'll have, yeah, you have to have some type of system in place.
As we get bigger.
I'm assuming,
I think municipal infractions are a better way than criminalizing, but Keith is right, we're a small town.
what are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do? And that's what I've been
You
hesitant
know,
on.
my opinion, I work for Springdale, protect tax base and revenue, that they can have sufficient amount of employees to operate that type of program, they don't know what you have to do.
Okay, then I will talk to Roger and see about him including language along this lines in this whole ordinance. Or I can have Roger call you, or you and Roger can talk about this, okay? All right, so meanwhile,
But if we ever can figure out how to do that cost effectively, I'll be in favor.
Yeah,
the administrative law judge.
and Paul,
Municipal infractions or town infractions,
Yeah.
is for, if the cost is prohibitive.
Okay,
I do too think it's better to say, hey, don't do it, okay, you gotta pay a fine. Not that you're, don't do a crime.
You treat it like a traffic ticket. Yeah. Or a parking ticket, I should say.
well, right now, all I'm doing is, this ordinance is separating code compliance officer duties from the zoning administrator. That's all this ordinance is doing right now. But we will have to come up with, later, an ordinance or resolution or policy, whatever we're gonna come up with that explains how the code compliance officer is gonna do his job. Because that's not what this is about right now. So are we all agreed to send this as written over to, planning commission for them to hold the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Another thing to add to your public hearing list. Okay, last thing we have here is, the code of conduct. And,
So reminded me, I did not
yeah,
think about it until she asked that I was going to find the proper place to slot it.
well,
into our ordinance.
we talked about it a little bit, Paul,
Can I take that off your plate and do it?
He was gonna-
Review?
Please do.
that was the next thing is Paul had said in our meeting the other day that if you had not had it done, he'd be happy to do it. We talked a little bit about where it should go. We couldn't decide if it went in chapter 2 or chapter 3 of the municipal
I
code.
trust the Paul.
We'll figure it out, okay? So, Marcy, you had some questions on it or
I just,
what?
not necessarily questions, it just seems, first of all, I'll say, I definitely support this code of conduct, just so for the record. With just the organization, consistency and redundancy, kind of seemed like it had a little bit of, and I'm sure you know what I'm referring to. but-
Yeah, because it's got its parts trying to.
Yeah,
address
exactly, and.
with regards to public, with regards to, elected and appointed officials as to the public, elected and appointed officials as to staff,
Exactly.
staff as to the different areas, staff to public, staff to elected and appointed officials. It's kind of a three-way, and it does get a little complicated.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make a bunch of fuss and fuss.
Okay, so we are agreed, I'm going to text Jean right now and tell him to come back for a closed meeting, because we're ready to adjourn this and go in closed meeting. Let's do an adjourn,
Yes.
finish this up and go take a break first. So we are agreed that on this last item, B7, on the code of conduct, that Paul is going to take this off,
Just change.
change it, take it off of,
Format, the substantive.
right, I understand that, you're just gonna come up with the numbering system and,
Send it.
and do this with the warehouses and all that stuff, and take it off of Keith's plate. And so we're all agreed on that?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All right, so at this point, we will take a break. And when we come back from the break, close the public meeting, or should we just go ahead and close the public meeting right now?
No.
Okay, we're doing, come back in.
We need to go into an executive session in the context of the public meeting, so what we're probably gonna do is move to go into the executive session, cite the reasons. And then indicate we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Okay. All right, so that's what I was asking, if we should close the public meeting and go into and announce we're going to close the
You know,
meeting.
because we
Okay,
have to come out of it, cite the time that we come out of it. And then close it.
okay, so I'll take a motion from someone to close the public meeting and,
Close it and then go into the executive session.
yes. Oh,
All
I'll
right,
let you make a motion.
I'll move that, we,
Suspend.
I was just looking at. Yeah.
It says close public meeting, that's really what he's saying is no, that's not what we're doing, we're going into
The
close.
reason for going into the executive
Yeah.
session.
I move that we go into executive session concerning litigation. Pending litigation. And we, in a short adjournment before we
So it's
start the closed meeting, and it is now, on the Crystal.
It's 7:47, but we need to,
We'll come back in 5 minutes, and we'll also announce.
Yeah, and that seconded and that
Yes.
motion.
so I second the motion and we'll do a roll call. So April? Aye. Paul?
Aye.
Jean? Yes. Misty? Yes. Mark? Okay.
Word being.
Oh, for goodness sake, I was gonna say that when we come back, but okay, I'll say it. Okay, we're gonna go into a closed meeting, you guys, and guess what? It's gonna take place right here in this very room where we're sitting right now, in the church. That's what I'm saying.
I accept that as my motion.
Thank you. Thank you.